The town of Camuñas is located in Castilla-La Mancha, Spain, a region famous as the setting of Cervantes' epic novel Don Quixote. Camuñas has fewer than 2,000 residents, but it hosts a Corpus Christi celebration like no other in the world. Corpus Christi is a Catholic liturgical feast honoring the Eucharist, believed to embody the blood and flesh of Jesus of Nazareth. Since the 16th century or earlier, this region of Spain has relied on masquerade to celebrate Corpus Christi. In Camuñas, the Corpus Christi celebration is organized by a fraternity known as the Hermandad del Santísimo Sacramento or Asociación Cultural de Pecados y Danzantes. Before Corpus Christi, the streets of the town are decorated, starting with hand-painting designs along the path that celebrants will march. And with garlands of flowers lining the streets and bouquets hanging overhead. Sometimes Spanish flags hang from the balconies. The celebration begins with a parade of danzantes or dancers, led by a captain. They march through the streets of Camuñas, jingling tambourines called sonajas. Accompanying them are a drum player and a percussionist, playing the porras, a wooden block and mallet. The danzantes follow the decorated path through town, stopping periodically at altars along the procession route, such as at the captain's house. The captain wears a unique costume. He has short black pants and stockings. Instead of a tambourine, he carries a short spear decorated with ribbons. The danzantes refresh themselves at the captain's house. After the captain, in order of seniority, are the mayor, alcalde, elder Jew, judío mayor, and a character called the cordel, difficult to translate but technically meaning twine, suggesting that he holds the group together. These danzantes all wear identical masks with long noses, which some believe are meant to represent Jews, which the title of Judío Mayor seems to confirm. The masks are kept atop the head during the parade. They are only worn over the face during specific moments in the ceremony. The costume of the danzantes is elaborate and has changed very little over the centuries. It consists of a white cotton shirt and pants decorated with colorful ribbons, a dark jacket, a cape embroidered with religious symbols, white stockings and shoes, and a white embroidered scarf tied to the belt called the pico. The danzantes eventually make their way to the house of the pecados or sins, where they are welcomed in a double row of pecados, saluted by a shotgunner, and served more refreshments. The pecados wear horned masks with ribbons. Their costumes differ from the danzantes in many respects. Both have white shirts, but pecados wear dark suits with a red sash, black shoes, and hanging from their belts are colorful cotton balls known as madroños. Pecados play no musical instruments. Instead, each carries a long staff called a vara, decorated with colorful ribbons. Together, the pecados and danzantes march to the house of the town curate. Pecados are organized in a hierarchy, with the pecaía or little sin leading the group. The pecailla is the only pecado without horns. He represents a hybrid of danzante and pecado. Following the pecailla is the correa or belt, who enforces discipline and teaches the initiates. The correa can be recognized by the 3 Maltese crosses running down his cape. The third authority is the pecado mayor or elder saint, who wears a unique black mask reminiscent of a pig's head meant to represent the devil. When the group meets the curate, the ceremonial attack begins. The danzantes form a double column ending with the curate, crucifix bearer, and 3 madrinas or godmothers. The pecados don their own masks and form a single line facing the curate. On the shotgunner signal, they run towards the priest one by one, howling and jumping. When each reaches him, he performs an obeisance, removes his mask, and receives the curate's blessing. This ritual may be repeated several times as the pecados and danzantes parade toward the town church. Once the group reaches the church, the pecados rush to the entrance. They are not allowed inside, but they form a ring around the door. The danzantes enter the church, where they dance around the nave. The pecados must wait outside the church because they have not yet been absolved of their sins. Eventually, the two groups reunite and proceed toward the church plaza, where a monstrance is deposited on an altar set up against the church's rear wall. In the plaza, the pecados wear their masks again and form a line along the edge, encircling the danzantes. The danzantes resume their dance. The group kneels before the altar and monstrance, and clergy lead a prayer. The shotgun signals the attack of the pecados, who line up again. One by one, they run, leap and land in front of the altar, kneel before it and remove their mask. This ritual lasts about 1 hour. Accompanying the danzantes is the madama, a man in woman's skirt and costume, playing castanets. The madama's mask differs from that of the danzantes. The nose is small and the eyes are semicircles. She is always paired with the danzante who plays the porras. The group then continues its procession path, performing a last set of prayers led by the clergy. And more pecado runs. Before retiring to their respective headquarters. The monstrance is returned to the church. On the day after Corpus Christi, a new ceremony is organized, la horca de los novicios, or the hanging of the initiates. La horca is the formal initiation of new pecados. A gallows is set up in the town windmill plaza. The initiates are prepared in a somewhat jocose ceremony. Meanwhile, the townsfolk assemble in the plaza of the windmill, relieving the summer heat with water fights, which the children especially enjoy. Maybe not just the children. The initiates are brought to the plaza in a cart covered in straw. They wear rags and carry a crude crucifix. The initiates are then dumped before the gallows, and the cart is symbolically burnt. More clowning follows. Eventually, an officer of the pecados called the suplente correa will prepare them with a harness. In the climax of the ceremony, each initiate is momentarily hung before the crowd, and the crowd splashes him with water in a symbolic baptism. The initiates have now joined the fraternity and can become full-fledged pecados. Some danzantes and pecados make their own masks. Julio Naranjo is one of a few craftsmen in Camuñas who specializes in mask making.
I've lived all my life here in this town, Camuñas. I make the mask with paper mache, and then I cut out the eyes, and I paint them. I've been making them for 60 years. I have a mold. And on top of the mold, I paste the wet paper mache. When it dries, it gets hard and becomes solid. I then take them off the mold. And that is what makes the masks. To the pecado masks, I attach goat horns, real goat horns. To the danzante masks, I attach a nose made of cork. There are 4 kinds of masks. 4. These are the danzante, the pecados, also the black one, which is the pecado mayor, and the madama. She's the one who dances, and her mask is different from the others. She barely has a nose. There's a 5th, the pecadilla, which is a pecado without horns,
Ángel Caballero is a danzante who, like Julio Naranjo, has lived his whole life in Camuñas. When did you begin dancing?
Yo empecé en el año 88.
I began in 1988, when I was 10 years old. And right now, I'm 43. My grandfather taught me, because in fact, I come from a family of danzantes. My grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather were always danzantes. Here we say it's in our genes or our blood. For example, the tambourine I play was passed down through the family, from one generation to the next.
Does anybody switch within a family between danzantes and pecados, or is it always the same within a family?
Normally,
you see families of only danzantes or only pecados, although it's possible for the father to be a danzante and the son a pecado, or the reverse. It can happen, but there are families, for example, where being a danzante is deeply rooted. Nearly all the descendants are danzantes, but there is no rule against one being a pecado.
How would you describe what being a danzante means to you?
pues hombre, ser danzante...
To be a danzante means a lot to me. My grandparents and ancestors played the tambourine and wore the mask, the big nose mask. So ultimately, I am perpetuating this role in the celebration. And apart from that, it's something we have always done, since we were little kids. At school, we played at being danzantes. In the end, it's something that calls to you, attracts you, and your brain responds. You don't know how or why, but it's something inside you. It makes you become a danzante or pecado.
Saúl Naranjo has been a pecado for 17 years. Why are you a pecado?
Well, it is a family tradition. My uncle, my cousins, my brother, my nephews, it's a family tradition. Some families belong to one group, some belong to the other. It's really a question of family history.
What does representing a pecado mean to you?
For me, I don't know if I can really explain the why. It's a feeling that I believe is a little indescribable. It's something that the people here carry very, very, very deep inside. So then there's really no explaining why. It gives us a feeling of happiness, fullness. They are very special days, to which we look forward all year.
Who made your mask and suit?
The mask I made myself. My brother and I made our mask many years ago. The suit was made by my mother, my grandmother, my sister, and others. I've been wearing it from the beginning, in 2006. I was an initiate in 2005 and became a pecado in 2006.
Carmen Cano Lopez is the mayor of Camuñas.
Corpus Christi is so rooted in the customs of Camuñas that they are almost the same thing. They practically get confused with one another.
During the decades of the Franco dictatorship, many mask traditions were suppressed.
Those were hard times. After the Civil War, people were more concerned with getting enough to eat than with cultural holidays. But eventually, those who left returned. The town was full of people, not only the Camuñas residents, but those who had gone to live elsewhere returned. And we received very many visitors.
Do you remember how you felt the first time you watched the Corpus Christi celebration?
Alegría, alegría y emoción.
Joy. Joy and emotion is what defines it best. Since I was a little girl, hearing the sound of the pecados made my hair stand on end. It is something that defines those of us who were born and raised here. That's why we are working for the celebration to be recognized as an intangible cultural heritage of humankind by UNESCO, so we can preserve it and pass it on to future generations.
How many danzantes and pecados are there?
I believe there are 78. There are so many that they have to take turns participating on different days. Otherwise, the celebration would never end.
In many places, masked ceremonies that were reserved for men only have begun to welcome women as participants. In Camuñas, all danzantes and pecados are men. How do you feel about that?
Are you asking my personal opinion or my opinion as a mayor?
Well, both.
As the mayor, I revere and respect the tradition and will not try to change it in any way. But as for my personal opinion, I don't agree. I believe that one day it will change. I don't know when, but that day will come. In its broadest sense, the Corpus Christi tradition of Camuñas represents a drama of redemption, the triumph of divine grace over sin. The danzantes represent virtues, and the pecados are sinners seeking to expiate their vices through the good offices of the curate and the symbols of the Church. But the celebration also reaffirms the Catholic faith of the townsfolk, binds them with a shared tradition, and reminds them of the importance of the community to their identities, and of moral virtues for the success as human beings.